Hi friends, it's Tilly, and we are so close to the end of making the Evil Queen. We have just 4 things to finish, and then she'll be complete. Hemming the dress and cape, attaching the hood to the shirt, fasteners for the collar, fasteners for the cape, and the brooch. So let's get started. To finish the cosplay, you'll need the following materials: a Dritz hem chalk marker, 8 size 4 snaps, 2 hooks and bars, safety pins, a brooch, and a crown. Before I started hemming, I first had to decide on my heel height and how long I wanted the dress. I wanted it to be just brushing the ground so I wouldn't have to worry about tripping or people stepping on the cape or dress at a con. I started with the petticoat. After the petticoat sat on the dress form over time, the fabric had stretched and become uneven. I first did the base layer and then the bottom tier of the petticoat. I used a hem chalk powder marker to mark all the way around the dress. I tried to let the layers sit as naturally as possible as I went around. The chalk marker I used can't measure floor-length dresses, so I measured 4 inches above the ground and used that as a baseline. From there I measured down how many inches I wanted remaining with seam allowance. I cut off the excess and hemmed by doing a 1/4 inch turned hem. I then did the same thing with the second tier by chalking the hem, marking down, ironing, cutting, before serging and finishing the hem. After the dress had also sat on the dress form for 2 weeks, I started hemming the lining with the chalk marker, measured down, accounting for seam allowance, and removed the excess, but I did not hem the lining yet. Repeat this same process with the sequin outer dress. I then went to overlock the sequin fabric using my great safety goggles and pretty much immediately broke a needle. I then decided to zigzag to help prevent fraying instead. Once both the lining and the sequin dress are ready, I hand stitched them together. If for some unknown reason you're like me and decide to hand stitch this on the cold tile bathroom floor, I recommend sitting on a pillow. Then use the same process to hem the cape. With the hemming complete, I moved on to the hood. I started by putting on the hood and the base shirt and safety pinning the hood all the way around the shirt. Try to keep your head neutral as you pin to have the fabric fall naturally. You may need an extra set of hands to help pin, and I recommend using safety pins instead of sewing pins so you can safely remove the garments after the pinning. I then moved my head all the way around to make sure I had full range of mobility. Once it's pinned in place and I was happy with the fit, I carefully removed it and used sewing pins to pin it into place. Then you can zigzag stitch it together. The zigzag stitch will help the fabric maintain its stretchiness. I also left the area around the zipper open by about 1 inch on each side, just to make sure I could zip it on and off easily. I decided to fasten the collar to the hood rather than the dress to have an easier time taking it on and off. I first put on the base shirt and pinned where the collar needed to be attached at the front and back. 1 snap on each side of the front and 1 snap on each side of the back. I tried on the dress as well to make sure they were pinned in the correct spots. Once you have your markings, I used another set of safety pins to match each garment's marking and hand stitch the snaps into place. I put the male snaps on the collar and the female snaps on the shirt to allow it to snap down into place for better leverage. In the areas that the snaps were sewn through both the shirt and the hood, I did not feel the need to reinforce them, but for the snaps that were only sewn to the velvet, I added an interfacing or stabilizer. The collar already had interfacing and did not need additional reinforcement. I then put everything back on and tested the placements of the snaps. Happy with the fit, I next put on the cape and marked where I wanted the fasteners to go. I used 2 snaps at the center front, a snap on each shoulder, and 2 hooks and bars in the back to help keep the cape in place. Once everything was marked, I carefully removed the garments and hand-stitched each fastener into place. I ultimately decided not to make the brooch and crown for a variety of reasons. The brooch I didn't really love the style of in the show, and so I went with a brooch off of Amazon, and the crown I wasn't sure how I wanted to actually make it, so I ended up purchasing it from an Etsy seller who was awesome. I'll link them both down in the description below. The only kind of bummer was the crown does show a lot of fingerprints, but I was warned of that before I purchased it, and all subsequent fingerprints are entirely my own fault. And with the last stitch in place, the Evil Queen is finally done. 8 months of work and hundreds of hours come to a close. Here's the reveal. This was by far the most ambitious and best project I've ever made. I'm thrilled with how she turned out. I was very detail-oriented and took my time compared to most of my projects, and she was definitely worth the effort. Thank you so much for going on this journey with me. If you enjoyed it or learned something new, don't forget to subscribe. My goal is to hit 1,000, and I'm thrilled to have you all here. I'll see you next time.